Good evening and welcome. You're watching Bizz Talk on your channel of choice, and my name is Sinazo January. Now, this is the show where I bring you nothing but the best of the business sector in and around the Eastern Cape. And as usual, this episode is absolutely no different. Now, on tonight's episode, we had the opportunity to attend a very special event that was hosted, honoring, of course, the legendary entrepreneur who died in Motherwell. He goes by the name of Ulundi Mbulu, and that conversation was led by Siya Mandla, who's also an entrepreneur from the Nelson Mandela Bay. So let's go and have a look.
Is it possible to achieve the sustainable growth we are talking about without overbearing the community and the livelihood community? And I hope that the presentation is going to be able to answer that question. And more importantly, answer it in a positive manner, because it will be contradicting to what we are trying to achieve. So, zininzi ke ii-elements that one can look at xa ezama uphendula lo mbuzo. I have looked at a few which I think they are critical or they play a meaningful role in shaping the sustainability. There are many role players in the township economy space that they are duty bound to create this conducive environment. So, in my attempt, we've looked at what could be the role of government. What is the role of the private sector? What is the role of the community itself that we need to preserve? What is the role of local business and local entrepreneurs? It's quite important to also mention that Upper, particularly a fallen soldier, Ulund was an entrepreneur, a renowned entrepreneur. I think I need to say this. I have never met him in person, but through his work, I know him. As the space, I also want to say that I've learned a lot from him. What are the opportunities in the township? I think that's my last aspect that I'm going to interrogate. So then Willem was mentioning as to government, the Mayake, private sector, the Mayake, the role of the community itself, the Mayetu as a community, the role of entrepreneurs and their enterprises, and what are then the opportunity as a subsequent result of that. So, in the past, when I was doing my MBA, because I'm passionate about this thing of township economy, I went to my supervisor, I said, I want to write a thesis about township economy. They came back to me, they said, there is no such a thing. There is no township economy. So there is no literature that supports this thing that we are talking about. I was very hurt because in my little understanding, I thought, Jemba every day, abantu trade it is business, most. So are you trying to tell me that we are not able to articulate and write about so that the future generations can also understand what township economy is about? By a rejector, a lot. Uyayazi uba umnqantsa wokwenza i-proposal for i-MBA uapprove and right. But anyway, azange ndiyenze lo research about township economy. But that didn't discourage me in participating in the economy because I believe there is. So while we're trying to, interrogate these instruments of change and how do we get to a sustainable economy if indeed the township is an economy. Fortunately now, there is some level of literature about the township economy. So, banai definition in the literature that's what township economy is about. And so I think that is also important to Madi highlight about. After so many years, firstly, what are the townships and what is the township economy? Now, Manga be serious. Now, I want to talk about the townships. I think, because I read, and guys, do you understand when you talk about the township, you realize that the literature is not written by us. The quote that I'm going to give you is coming from the World Bank. World Bank. What? They said in many ways that the township, especially the informal settlements, are similar to what they call in slums in much of the developing world, although they never was a slum in terms of the South African context, but a very concerted, planned, central purpose, of where black people, of course, were segregated and placed so that they are excluded in the mainstream economic activity. I think that is something we could all agree. That townships were never meant to be an economy in the very first place. You were displaced, you were meant to be segregated. It was just, just come and sleep and then go to work. It was never meant to be economically viable, inclusive, for that matter. So, and guys, do we really have an economy that's Telebe Township? So, the literature goes further again. The township economy refers to enterprises and markets based in townships. Township enterprises are diverse with a higher rate of informality, underline that word, and are also very survivalist in nature. Now, because West Backroom said that we were meant to be just labor bearers, we understood Basile needs as Gezetu. That is why now we talk of a township economy, because people started small businesses to serve specific needs of the community. And because obviously the economy, the mainstream economy could not employ everybody, it meant that we started businesses as a means to survive.
It's time to take a quick ad break, but we still have more for you, so do stay tuned. And welcome back from the ad break. If you've just joined us right now, we had the opportunity to attend Cable Talks where they were honoring the young entrepreneur Ulundi Mpolo from Motherwell, who was brutally killed last year. So let's go have a look.
The majority of these graduates are black kids. Yes. They come out of varsity, celebrate with social media and everywhere else. We congratulate them. And my next question is that what happens thereafter? It's a very painful thing, and that is why they take antenna that we need to take ourselves seriously. The problem is that we don't take ourselves seriously. This thing of mediocrity, playing games, socially inclined, everything's about fun and games. It has to end at some point in time. Now, education is not meant, so education is not meant to be a solution to everything. But education is meant to give you the ability to think not outside the box, without the box. Why are we going to school? You see, the problem is this indoctrination that you must go to school and you're going to be employed by ABSA, a big corporate. Guys, if you're sitting with 77% of the population in the township that is unemployment, ufika queue, graduate. In actual fact, you are declared unemployed for life. So we have to change the mindset. Why do we go to school? We go to school so that it influences our thinking, our exposure, so that we can then participate in this economy meaningfully. So firstly, we have to respect that it is an economy, because I told you, there are people who are making billions out of this economy every year, and they sit in something, they invest that money in high heavens activities, and it never comes back here. Do we blame them for that? No, we must take responsibility ourselves. So I'm an advocate of education because I believe it has to be a liberating thing first, before we think it as a tool for you to get employment. Pressure, right? So we have to be able to take the responsibility in terms of the knowledge that we acquire. Use that knowledge with all the support structures. You know, I'm going to touch with the issues of NYTA and all of that, because when we started businesses, these institutions were not there. So magazines criticize with laziness as well, because today there is ample developmental institutions that are geared in supporting small businesses, particularly black-owned businesses, right? But they're not going to come to you. You have to go to them. Now, I wish I can issue of effectiveness and this and that. If we hear our let's argue later about that. But when people don't make even an attempt, it's a problem. Now, let me tell you about, I'm going to try and knit all these questions without really pointing to Umdebe Buzi. Now, as I said, I was fortunate, I went to school and this and I'm an engineer by profession, but I didn't end there. I'm in the waste economy space that I knew nothing about. I sat in front of the computer with the same data that you guys have. I spent 3 months of my time understanding waste, plastic, manufacturing, and I did all of that. 3 months later, I knew what the heck was going on. And I realized this is a space that I'm interested in, and I participated, I looked for opportunities until I found an opportunity, right? Same data. Now I'm learning about e-waste, you know, how to recover gold, platinum, silver, you know, all these expensive precious metals. And I can tell you, we'll open a refinery that extrapolates all of that and sell it to the market, because this is something I'm interested in. So education is not meant to be a certificate that you hang. Education is in the mind, the way you think, the way you do things, and how you apply it. It should give you a competitive advantage. So, in my last point when it comes to this education, because it's something that is very close to my heart, I'm very critical of graduates. You know why? You know, in a small business, it is always common cause that people are your biggest asset in business, right? It's even more apparent for a small business. But I can assure you that you are sitting with graduates that do finance, bookkeeping, marketing. But these graduates have got no role in the small business development. They don't come and say, yes, I'm not employed. And can't find that job in the apps, but I'm a bookkeeper by profession. Can I assist you with your books? So the same graduates undermine the same small businesses that they could be participating and allowing them to grow. So it's a responsibility that we have. You have as graduates. But instead, we sit with this diploma and this degrees because we are waiting for a big corporate job in an aircon, a top floor. It's not going to happen. So I want to pose it and leave it to you guys that what is the role that you are playing with this education that you acquire? Because imali lufuna kubhatela. Nina nefsas, zonke izinto ze-fancy, you know, in actual case it's a free education. But what are you doing? What's the return on that investment? So I'm going to leave it to you guys. Now, Bulelan Councillor unyanisile because kudala sikule journey thina. We've been talking, we've been talking, we've been talking. We have tried things, we've succeeded, we failed. Failure is a natural thing. You know, failure is an opportunity to learn. So it's not really a failure. A failure is somebody who fails and never stands up again. That is a failure. But to fail and learn and prevent it from happening again is not a failure. It's like esikoleni ubhala test ufail uphinde ufunda ubhala pass. That's just how it is. But I just want to come back to you about this issue of the role of government. You see, we must not underplay it. Government has got a deliberate role in creating a conducive environment for anything when it comes to human development. Apartheid did not thrive because they were too clever. And they created this monopoly they have today because they had the wisdom and the monopoly of wisdom. Policy gave them the advantage. So we must not downplay those type of things. So are we effective in implementing such policies that give a deliberate intention and changing the status quo? I also answer out of my own wisdom and will, because I'm just one individual. But as a collective, the government has to intervene. You see, if you talk about the BE, the Black Empowerment Programs, employment equities, if you didn't have that, you would not have some of the people that are sitting at corporate management level, because that is a deliberate to say you need to give an advantage to this person based on the legacy issue. So in the township space, it's very sad that we have missed the boat, because 29 years later, one of the biggest problems is that the same politicians have undermined the same opportunity. People go and fly to Heathrow, or in Sweden, they see trams there. You know, that was a train, we call them trams or whatever. Then somebody comes in, writes a thesis and says, this is the municipality must implement this thing, take away it takes.
And it's time to take another quick ad break. But do stay tuned because we'll see you right after this.
There was a question also about issues of price and price elasticity. I mean, those are just business issues. But I think I want to touch basically on a price that, in the back to this thing, that what is the role of the community towards business? I said, firstly, it has to be a deliberate decision to spend your money in the township, small businesses. It's deliberate. You must make that as a conscious decision. You do it deliberately, because that's how you're going to empower that business, and that business being able to employ people. The issue of price, you see, the problem again is that the consumer, which is fortunately is the same community that we are running business, they also need to take us seriously, because here they are prepared to pay more. When they come to you, they don't want to pay more. So there's an element of education that needs to come to say that by a price, if it's fair value for money, it's quality work, and that price is priced correctly, you have to pay the price. Masisuke kule ngcinga intoba xana ndimsupporta or ndibhatala this price ndiyamtyebisa. Nobody is in business to be poor in the very first place. You see, so the more we spend the money locally, the more we create jobs, the more those people who are now employed are spending the money in the same economy. So it's a circular economy, this thing. So we need to understand. So that's why I'm saying that we have to be deliberate as to where we spend the money and who we spend the money with. Because at this point in time, I told you, ShopRite is the biggest beneficiary of the same money that government puts into the system, the economy. So umuntu adwishela ngeprice, I think funeka umskule. Yes, you must define what is your key competitive advantage, quality, service, all of those things. You have to define them. The business environment requires you to do that because we are also saying that you mustn't rob people, right? So there was a last question that was asked about how have I navigated, you've been in business for this long, what have you done? How did you grow? There's a route to this thing. If you're fortunate and you got employed, you get experience, right? You work, experience, you get work ethics, because that's another problem that is a big problem in our young people. Work ethics, they're not there. Today bafuna umsebenzi, umnika umsebenzi, apeye, uzabuya 3 days, 4 days later. This is true, guys. We're not. It's not fun and games. It's the reality. So education, as I said, that a part of my philosophy in terms of my growth is to learn as much as I can, to learn about things that I know nothing about. Today, I know quite a bit about certain industries that I was not taught at school. I knew nothing about them 10 years ago, but I had invested the time and my little resources to learn about those things so that they give me a competitive advantage, right? So I don't only participate in one industry, I have created a platform where I can participate in multiple industries because business, by its nature, keeps changing. The dynamics change. I will make a typical example. When COVID came, businesses were closed. But you are a non-critical service provider, you closed down. Now we can't operate. Now what do you do? You're sitting with the infrastructure and people that are not earning income, and I'm not making money. The first thing we did, we said, okay, the conditions have changed now. We've got a car wash. Everybody talks about sanitization, they talk about disinfection. So what can we do? We converted that car wash, we sanitized vehicle disinfections. We now moved from just being a car wash and we provided those services for household. Because that's what you do. You change your methodology based on circumstances. Now we're going to churches, to schools, to do all of that with the same labor, the same equipment that we had, but it's just that we were serving a different market at a different point in time. So your agility in business is very important. So but you can't do that if you're not learning, you're not dissecting with the circumstances of the day, and to you business is just a fashion. It's not going to last.
And unfortunately, that is all that we have for you for tonight's episode of Bizz Talk. And we were honoring Ulundi Mbulu, who is a young entrepreneur, and he was brutally killed last year. But his legacy still lives on. But unfortunately, it is a good night from myself, Sinazo January, and the rest of the MPK crew. Have a good evening.